Hello and
Hello.
welcome to the Macaw
Macaw
Podcast
Podcast
Universe.
Universe.
It's me, Micah Macaw.
And me, Jordan Macaw.
And we are tackling a series as we do. That is what this show is. We tackle series.
Film series.
It's got to have 3, and we just try and we just see what's good about it, what isn't. We are here to exist to prove people wrong when they say the sequels are never better than the originals. That is our whole goal, is to find series that are actually cohesive and good all the way around.
And maybe why they're not.
Yeah. And this is no exception. We're covering the Toy Story series. And last night I realized, and listener, I would love to hear from you. You can either comment in our iTunes, or you could just message me or Jordan on Instagram. I think this might be the only series that does not have a bad entry in it all the way through, or at least like I don't think anyone really is like, oh, one toy, like these 2 Toy Stories are good, but this one sucks. Of course, there are opinions and stuff like that, but I think this is a perfect series, and
We like to make sweeping statements.
we
on
like
this.
to make sweeping statements. And I'd love to hear if you have any suggestions. But when we think about like Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit's technically a part of it, or Star Wars, there's a lot of weird stuff in there. So this might be the best. It's at least the best one that we're covering. Mm-hmm. And there are
So far.
series like Mad Max that I like all of them, and I think they're all good. But the dip in quality from 2 to 3 is substantial, and then the uptick in 4 is crazy.
Is 3 the one with Tina Turner?
Yeah.
Okay.
But 4 is like way better than all other 3 by like a long shot. And
Yeah.
in this series, there isn't really. I think 2 is the best, but if someone says they like another one more, it's not like, wait, did you miss something?
Well, yeah, I think this is like this. I think really the second time I've seen Toy Story 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was like, I don't know. I just remember, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like the first time I saw it, I really liked it, but it's kind of like you forget about it. So I'm like, this is going to be fun because it's Pixar and it's Toy Story and I'm going to like it.
Yeah.
And we're watching, I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah,
I guess you got to put a 10 out of 10 out of this one too.
I know. So far, rewatching the series, it's a 10 out of 10 for Toy Story, 10 out of 10 for Toy Story 2, and a 10 out of 10 for Toy Story 3. Because, of course, you can make little minor adjustments, but there's nothing major wrong in any of these movies. And then I'm thinking about Toy Story 4. We haven't rewatched it yet, and I'm like, I can't imagine. I mean, that movie's so good, and I think I like it more than I like Toy Story 3, which means it's 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's a perfect series. I love the series. So should I just jump straight away into it? Okay. So this movie is directed by Lee Unkrich, who's been one of the Toy Story guys this whole time. If you listen back to our previous 2 episodes, you'll hear all about him. And if you haven't, our Toy Story episode with Daniel Grissom is our best episode. I'm trying to say it again and again. It's co-directed. Oh no, he was the co-director of Toy Story 2, Monsters, Inc., and Finding Nemo. And he also directed Coco. So say no more about this guy. Story by John Lasseter and Andrew Stanton and Lee Unkrich. And then the screenplay is by Michael Arendt, Arendt. Arendt? And he did... Ardent. He did Oblivion and Inside Out and The Force Awakens. Those are some of his screenplay credits. Just kind of an odd mix of movies. Mm-hmm. Music's by Randy Newman. And like in all of them, but this one, out of the 3 that we've rewatched, I think this one really pulls some nice musical notes in it.
Agreed.
And is really... Like, he does the thing with Lotso Hug-A-Bear, where it has, like, the harmonica, and it sounds like you're on a porch in
Yep.
Louisiana or something. Or Alabama, probably more. And,
I don't know. I've never been there.
Or maybe Kentucky.
Wow, okay.
Actually,
Brag.
Tennessee. But, man, he's really pulling it. And then at the end, when they're going down the garbage chute, it's so intense. It's
really
insane.
pulling on your heartstrings there. That's what he's playing with.
Yeah.
That's the instrument
That's
he's
the
playing
instrument
with.
of choice.
Yeah.
It's produced by Darla K. Anderson, who did A Bug's Life and Monsters, Inc. as well.
You know you can lean that case.
Oh, well, I don't know. How do you do that? Like this? How does that work?
Give it to me.
Okay. where Jordan got an iPad for Christmas, and I took my notes on it, and I don't know how to use it properly. So here we are. I'm filling up the airwaves because
go.
I don't want to have to cut anything, and this is no exception. I'm not going to cut this. I thought I did a great job filling up the airwaves.
Is it working?
Yeah, I'm just getting it adjusted. It's distributed by Walt Disney Pictures, and it's produced by Walt Disney and Pixar. And then we have a couple of cinematographers on this movie, which aren't always listed in the animation stuff. But we have Jeremy Lasky, who did Cars 3. Not a great movie. Looks great, though.
Oh, okay.
Finding Dory as well. Wall-E and Cars, the first one. And then Kim White did Cars 3 as well. And those two did the cinematography for this movie.
Okay.
Which I would love to see like a Vanity Fair breakdown of how they do their jobs, because they're
on an animation movie.
Yeah, they're just kind of like, I guess they're bringing their expertise of like how a real film camera would react.
That's possible.
And I can't.
Is cinematographer the same thing as a director of photography? Okay, just making sure.
I think there's like probably a technical difference, but that's what it is.
Okay.
And as a little tease, in Toy Story 4. I watched this video on YouTube that was analyzing one shot in the movie, and they do this thing that you've talked about, which is the double focus thing. And the guy did a whole essay on like why Toy Story would do that, because it's not something an animated film has to do. And you're
talking about when the background and the foreground are both in focus.
Yeah, and it's called something. I forgot what it's called.
Why did they do it?
And it's Toy Story 4.
Oh.
I'll tell you off mic though.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
I love
though.
shots like that. They look so cool.
It's cool, and yeah, he explained how they actually do it. I'll tell you this part. They put two different lenses on the camera, and they have. If you look on a lot of those shots,
proof that they're real. That Toy Story's real.
Yeah, they actually found
cool.
Woody.
Say no more.
But they have
Say no more.
Okay, all right. Listen in next week to hear more about that shot. So Toy Story 3 comes out June 18th, 2010. When did you first see this movie? I have plenty more notes, but we don't have to listen to me talk this whole time.
Saw it in theaters with my family. Yeah. We thought that this movie came out around the time we were, like, I was going to college, like right before I was going to college.
That's what I thought too.
That's why I said we, Micah.
I know.
And then we found out this movie came out in 2010. Mike and I graduated high school in 2012. So I definitely saw it in 2010, but it must have just still felt really, really specifically relatable to that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're at an age where, I don't know about you, like I wasn't really playing with toys anymore though.
No.
So
I wasn't either.
That's probably another, like, why it especially feels that way too.
Totally.
Because that movie wrecked me. I don't think I actually cried in theaters, but I think I was like, why am I not crying right now? That's how it felt.
Yeah. And I saw like the midnight premiere, and I just remember it was such a kind of a fun experience. Went with Micah Ratcliffe, and the theater was completely full, and it was there were maybe, I know it was midnight, so there's not going to be a lot of kids anyway, but there was maybe like 10 kids under the age of 15, and the rest of them was like 16 to 21ish that were in the theater.
And everyone's crying.
And everyone's just like, yeah.
You know, I just realized I did see Toy Story 2 in theaters because I have a visual specific memory of walking out of the theater and seeing Barbie up there with the smile thing at the end in the credits.
Oh, okay.
So I did see it in theaters.
With the smile thing at the end.
Remember, she was like, "Can I stop smiling now? My cheeks hurt so bad."
Yeah.
I think this movie, Toy Story 3, with the end, it made a really huge impact on like what I want to do with my life.
Really?
Yeah, just because like the emotion, like the way it made me feel was like, I just hope and pray someday I can give someone else that feeling. Like that's how I felt.
And that's so that's part of what makes you want to write novels.
Or just draw, just like any of the art stuff that I want to do. That's
very cool. Box office. The movie has a $200 million budget, and it makes $415,004,880 domestically. Worldwide, it makes $1,066,969,703. So it's in the like 30 or so movies that are over the billion range. of all movies it released. That number keeps growing because of
When did 2 come out?
2 came out in I think 99.
Wow, so it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's the story on this. Pixar had a 7-movie deal with all characters created by Pixar, or with Pixar. So they had a 7-movie deal, but all characters that were created in those 7 movies were owned by Disney. So Disney thought, hey, they own the rights to make sequels, but Pixar owned the right of refusal. So if Disney was like, hey, let's make the sequel, Pixar could say, nah, we're not going to make it. But in 2004, Disney and Pixar were looking to split, and they were coming to the end of that 7-movie deal, and the negotiations weren't going well. So Michael Eisner,
So then Disney was like, let's just buy Pixar.
yeah, I think that's about when they bought them, yeah.
Okay.
But Michael Eisner, who's the chairman for Disney at the time, put together plans for a new studio called Circle 7, and he was like, we own the characters. They own the right to refusal, but I think that means like they don't have to make it. So
Yeah,
he's
and
opening.
even though they say no doesn't mean that they can't do it.
Yeah, so they own the characters, and they're like, cool, we're going to make Toy Story 3 at Circle 7 Animation Studios, and it's going to be directed by the guy who did Hunchback 2, the Hunchback of Notre Dame 2 direct-to-DVD, or directed movie.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
I haven't either. And the guy who directed Lion King 1.5, Bradley Raymond. And so one of the first like ideas of the movie. So listener, as you will note, I am confounded by watching these movies and reading about the production that they turn out to be perfect movies, because every single movie, including 4, has a troubled production. And yet they still churn out these movies that are perfect.
Makes you think like maybe you should struggle to achieve art, but then it's like, yeah, but The Hobbit came out, and they really struggled on that production,
and that's a nightmare.
That's not an absolute truth.
No. So one of the first ideas was Andy goes to his grandma's because the house is getting remodeled, and it was going to be a whodunit murder style movie about the toys trying to figure out who stole them.
Not against that.
No, I'm not against it either. And then the final version of Circle 7 script would have been a Buzz Lightyear recall, where Buzz is shipped to Taiwan, and he would have had to meet his replacement, Dax Blaster, who has an accessory cat whose name is Comet, and the toys would have had to go rescue him while they met other recalled toys.
Not against that either.
I know, pretty good idea, actually. That
almost a little surprised that Toy Story 4 wasn't part of, like, didn't have any of those elements.
Yeah. And then January 2006, Pixar was bought by Disney, like you were hinting at, and Circle 7 and that movie were scrapped. And Edwin Catmull and John Lasseter were in charge of all Disney animation. So,
never mind.
Once Pixar took over, Lee Unkrich said this about the new script for Toy Story 3, which would become the movie that we have all seen. And he said this, quote, "Not out of spite, but we wanted to start fresh and not be influenced by what they'd done previously. We didn't look at any of the work they'd done. We really didn't want to know anything about it."
Makes sense.
So they did not even look at
And you know what?
stuff.
If let's say that the movie was the recall movie, and then we're doing this podcast, and you're saying that a potential movie was them being stuck at a daycare, needing to be taken home, I would have been like, not against that one.
Yeah, I know the potential for as long as you just don't do the exact same thing you did before, the potential is huge.
They're different settings every time. That's what's super important too.
Yeah.
You can't just have it at Andy's room for 4 movies. It's boring.
No. And so the director also talked about how he felt a lot of pressure because up to this point, critically and audience-wise, Pixar had not made a dud. And so he was just kind of like, I don't want to be the first guy to make the Pixar dud. Cars 2.
Oh.
The Good Dinosaur is a good movie.
Financially, though.
But it was a dud. And then Cars 3 is good, but I thought
that was
whatever.
Disney Studios.
No, that was Pixar. And then they had to recreate, this is the final note, they had to recreate all of the models for the movie because everything was outdated.
No, just because that's the way it goes. That's just because. Because of the universe.
But seriously, so once they got there, they had to get rid of all of it. So that is where we're at. And so now I turn it over to my lovely wife, the woman of my dreams and the love of my life, to tell you who is in this movie besides the cast that we already know about and who has been in the other two movies.
Okay, well, as Micah can probably see that I'm on IMDb and he's hating it. This is where I'm getting my information from right now. So, Lotso, I almost said Sir Hugs-a-Lot. Lotso is the bear's name.
Mm-hmm.
Been going through a pretty hard time, people, so cut me some slack. So Lotso, played by Ned Beatty, who is in Network.
Oh yeah.
Who is he?
He's the guy who when the main character walks into the room, he's like, he does the whole speech and then he's like, see, it's just show and stuff. He like owns the whole network.
Oh, I can like kind of see him.
He's in it for maybe like 20 minutes, I think, but it's just one of those classic, like just great co-starring roles, you know?
He's also in Superman, and by Superman, I mean the 1978 version. He's in Deliverance, Shooter.
He is in Shooter. That yeah, okay. Sorry.
Rango.
He's in Rango?
Yeah, he plays Mayor.
Cool.
Why are there two different things? One's probably a video game or something. But yeah. I mean, he's been in a lot. He was born in 1937.
I mean, he's an all-time great. We love him. You know him, you love him, Ned Beatty. Or Ned Beatty. I think it's Beatty.
Probably Beatty, because that's how Warren Beatty's name is spelled.
Yeah.
And then we have Michael Keaton, who plays Ken. And it's kind of like, guys, have you never heard of Michael Keaton? We've already talked about him.
We have.
And covered him.
Go to our Spider-Man Homecoming episode.
He's back in a comedy role.
Is this would be before Birdman?
It is.
So this is maybe like the beginning of his kind of like
dramatic
renaissance.
Yeah, but also he doesn't really do comedy anymore.
Yeah.
So it was really fun to see him do comedy because that's where he's based. I mean, he's a comedian,
yeah,
right?
That's how he started.
So it was fun to see him in a funny role. What's great is when he's in dramatic movies, he has really, really good comedic timing.
Yeah.
When it's needed in a dramatic movie, that's why it's so like he's just so good in everything.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Michael Keaton. Weird looking guy. I asked my mom once if he was good looking, and I think she said yes.
Yeah, I think she did.
Weird.
And if you don't remember or you're new to the podcast, in our Spider-Man Homecoming episode, we go on a long rant about how he is actually not a good Batman or a Bruce Wayne. And if you dispute that, go listen to that and then talk to us.
Thank you. And then we have Timothy Dalton, who plays Mr. Pricklepants, who's the little hedgehog porcupine stuffed animal.
He's James Bond.
And then I'm trying to find... Oh, there we go. Kristen Shaw, who is Louise in Bob's Burgers. Also, I don't remember her name in Flight of the Conchords.
Yeah.
But she's in that. She's also a main character in Last Man on Earth. But just does is incredible voice acting. Because she just has one of the most unique voices.
She has had a really fantastic career.
Yeah, it's so great. And then Jeff Garlin, who is in Curb Your Enthusiasm, he plays Buttercup, who is like the plushy unicorn, white unicorn. So yeah, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Daddy Daycare, you name it, he's in it.
Yeah,
Jeff Garlin, and then Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, she's the octopus.
Oh, I couldn't figure that out.
I only knew
Why does it not say what her character's name is on here?
I only knew because I was watching some behind-the-scenes footage of the actors doing it. Ooh, and I'll jump in on this a little more. I didn't know. I've always been a little bit confused about how voice acting and all that works with animation. So, with this movie at least, and I think what they do a lot of the times, but specifically this one, Lee, the director of the movie, was there for all of the voice acting, and he's just in the room. It's a pretty large room, actually. I thought it'd be a smaller, like, soundproof room.
Oh, yeah. Every time I've looked up something, it's big.
Yeah. He's just sitting there, and he's just coaching them, and just like another line. Okay. And it's weird because you're sitting there, and I think Tim Allen was saying, like, you'll do, like, whole days where all you're doing is, like, grunting and breathing. So all you're doing is just that, and you're not even doing lines and stuff. So you're
And
just
think
doing
about
it
Vin Diesel being
for
Groot.
I am Groot. Yeah. And so all of that, and then and in that they were just talking about
Found
like
something nuts.
Whoopi Goldberg, and,
Yeah.
and it was just showing all of them doing it, and I guess they don't, at least for this movie, they didn't have the. He just is like, okay, so this is the scene, this is what's happening, and they don't have the other
They don't have
actors'
context.
lines, they don't have the full script,
Yeah.
so they're just doing what he's telling them to do, and they
Well,
don't really know what's going to happen.
Hats off to him. Good directing.
I'm sure like Tom Hanks and Tim Allen probably got the full script so that
Yeah.
they could be like, I want to do it or no, because
Yeah.
they're so much a part of it. But
Yeah.
the minor characters, no.
So remember how we thought Bookworm was Billy Crystal?
Yeah, who is it?
Richard Kind.
Oh,
Which is like, oh yeah, they sound weirdly a lot alike that I've never realized before.
okay. Richard Kind is Bing Bong from Inside Out, folks.
Yeah. Also in A Serious Man.
Yes.
Okay, so you know when you said in the movie the garbage guy, and you're like, that's Sid because of the
Yeah.
skull played by the kid who played Sid in Toy
They
Story
did the
1.
same kid?
Yeah, because it's the same. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Eric Von Denton.
Wow.
Oh yeah, who's the hot guy Josh from Princess Diaries? People are for the second time hearing me freak out about that. Anyway, yeah, they got him, which means of course they're gonna get Andy.
Well, and which leads me, I'm going to lead you into this. The director was like, man, who are we going to cast as Andy? And he goes, I don't know if, like, we should call the guy who played Andy in the first two movies, and we should just see. But he goes, I don't even know if he acts or anything. And he calls, and the guy didn't pick up. And he heard the voicemail, and immediately when he heard the voicemail, he was like, yep, we have to hire him. Kind of fun.
Wait.
And then the Andy.
For the first movie?
No, for this movie.
Oh, I thought you meant like that was the kid calling them back for Toy Story 1, and they were just like, all they did was hear his voicemail, and they're like, that's his audition. He's in. Because it's all voice acting.
Yeah, well, he called
I'm
him.
joking.
Oh, okay. I don't.
Okay. But that's about it.
Well, what's that kid's name?
Andy?
Yeah.
I just saw it. It is. Oh, right here. John Morris.
John Morris. Cool. So that leads us to the great 2010 perfect movie, Toy Story 3. So we open and we have this like highly stylized Western animation out in the desert, child's imagination sequence, which is pretty cool because we've never been in the imagination of what a child thinks about. And now that
I imagine it was very easy to, not very easy, but because of the background, that helped the animators a lot.
yeah, I think so. But they had a lot of dust and stuff like that.
No, they
so-
did. It was still like really crazy and everything. But like if you think about just the background
Yeah.
stuff, like
Yeah. So
Nice.
then we just have a classic like cold open kind of thing where it's Woody trying to stop Mr. Porkchop from doing like getting all these orphans to fall
no,
off
it's
of
Mr. and
this cliff.
Mrs. Potato Head,
Yeah, he's evil. Oh yes.
and then it gets to be evil.
One-Eyed Bart.
Pork chop.
That's what he calls him.
Yeah.
One-Eyed Bart, and I think it's Mrs. One-Eyed Bart.
Okay.
Something like that. And this whole sequence is just delightful. Like all of the movies, they just know exactly how to introduce the characters. Because right away you're just like, there's Woody, there's Jesse, there's Bullseye, there's Buzz. And like when the railroad falls off the tracks and then you see Buzz bring it up.
And
you're
it's
just
fun
like,
to see some of the characters as bad guys. Like that's how Andy
yeah.
played with them. Because of course, when we see him in the movie, they're all great. Like they're all nice, good characters.
Yeah. But yeah, seeing that he has like Mr. Porkchop, who's Ham,
And
like,
Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head.
yeah, as bad guys, and then they launch like the monkeys to attack them all.
Really funny.
And then we kind of zoom out of the imagination and we see it's Andy, of course, and he's playing with the kids. And then it's a
The
home
kids.
record.
He's playing with the kids.
Yeah, with the kids.
With the
It's
toys.
It's toys. With the home recording, it's showing through the years as Andy grows up. And already it's like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
What are we getting ourselves into?
Yeah.
The nostalgic feel. And as you're looking at the home recordings, as if you're around our age, you're remembering all those home recordings that you have and like, oh, lost childhood, you know, it's,
Yeah.
and then you see that he is grown up now, to a degree, I guess.
Well, going off to college, 17 years old.
Yeah. Well, and it cuts to, and this was brilliant. It cuts to all the toys after all that fun. and they're in a toy chest, and they're like, places, everybody. Andy's coming. We got the phone. And they hide the phone in the toy chest. So that like army soldiers had gone and got it. So you're already seeing like, oh, the phone is his toy now, which is exactly how it works for everyone this age. And they put it in there, they ring it, and they're hoping, okay, he's going to open the toy, grab them, and start playing with them again. And he grabs his phone, kind of glances at the toys, and then he's done.
Yeah.
And you're like, so this is what this movie's going to be about.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's kind of like, this has always been coming, even if they'd never made a 3,
Yeah.
It's like, if they keep making movies, they do have to talk about this, because especially in Toy Story 2 with Jessie's story, I mean, that's her story, which means that in this universe, that's like obviously a reality.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, they had to do this.
It's almost like you're sitting there and you're kind of like, this is where the story does need to go, but please don't go there.
Because it hurts too bad. It's too relatable. It makes you think about yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's not like, it doesn't make you think like, when was the last time I played with my toys? Which I definitely thought about that. It definitely made me think about that when I watched it. But that wasn't the reason why I felt sad.
Yeah.
More than it's you think that when was the last time I played with my toys, because it's like, oh, to be a kid again.
Yeah.
What was that like? Oh, I played with my toys.
I know. And as growing up, to let you in a little bit, I just always hoped and like not pretended, but I hoped that I would always be like the seize the day type to a degree, not in a crazy way, but like the seize the day type, and the one who would look back with fondness, but never be like, man, I wish I was back there. But I think it's just a part of the human condition.
I would say that I could see people thinking that about you though.
I think
you still have that childlike quality in you.
Well, I try to retain it.
Have lost.
I really
remember
do.
being like maybe 13, maybe I don't think 14, but it's possible. I was playing like make believe, and I just remember thinking this moment of like, when am I going to stop doing this?
Well, I will say this: on Christmas when I was playing with my dog, I was going there a little bit. So I still dabble. But I do wish
Makes you think
for
of
those
Step Brothers,
days,
when his dad's talking to them, and he's like, he's telling this story about always wanting to be a dinosaur,
Yeah.
And then finally one day his dad comes out and is like, forget his name, but like, Bob, like get up out of the dirt, stop being a dinosaur and go to work. And you're like, oh, he did this for a long time.
Yeah.
I thought that was such a funny joke.
And then he pretends to be a dinosaur at the end, which is that's maybe like the nail on the head of that movie being a modern masterpiece. It's pretty darn good.
It's good.
Anyway, so phone and toy chest, and they also mention that Bo Peep is gone, and Woody has
and they took a moment.
They did, yeah. Now it plays like they had 4 ready to go, but if you read anything about it, they were definitely like, no, 3 is the end, until they came up with another story.
Yeah.
And then basically his mom comes in, Andy's mom, and she says, you need to start packing up your room. You're going to college. You need to put stuff in the trash bag. You need to put stuff in the attic, and you need to decide. And there's that scene. I think it's in that scene where she kind of cries because he's going away, and that gets me now. That gets me pretty good. I mean, I was.
Did your mom do that to you?
I don't think. Well, I never went to college, so no. She thinks I still live there.
Oh, that's awkward. You're married. I hated going to college. That was
that was tough.
One of the worst moments of my life, probably.
Well, it's crazy. Oh, this is crazy. So Laurie Metcalf, who plays Andy's mom.
Oh, wait, let me just, like, people thinking that I hated my college experience. I had a good college experience relatively, but it was saying goodbye to my mom. That's what I mean by I hated it. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking that Laurie Metcalf has, I wouldn't say that the Toy Story 3 scene is like one of the great college send-offs of movies. But she sends off Andy, and then remember in Lady Bird, she sends off Saoirse Ronan.
Oh.
And that scene is heavy.
Yeah, because
And she just
Yeah.
kind of like kicks her out, and she's like, okay, whatever.
But the
And
camera stays on her until she gets back
then she
around
starts
to the gate.
crying. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
Did she win?
She won.
That year?
She won.
Okay.
And I'm so glad that she did because it was so good. And I remember
looking back, it's like that's a perfect performance.
I saw the movie the first time I think with you.
Yeah.
And then I saw it again with my mom and my siblings, and I was just being stupid and was really mad that night and like was in a bad mood and being kind of mean before we saw the movie. So then we're at the movie and that scene's happening and I just lose it. Because one, it's just like, why was I such in a bad mood? It was just for really petty reasons.
Yeah.
And then it's making me think of when my mom took me to college and like sent me off.
Dang.
And gosh, I cried so hard.
Maybe I should see Little Women.
Yeah.
Greta Gerwig knows how to get it done.
She does. And everyone's saying that it's better than the book. Did you hear that?
Well, I've never read the
There
book.
are articles coming. I didn't either. But there are articles coming out saying why Lady Bird, why Little Women is better than the book. I'm just saying though, because people never say that.
That's true, especially classics like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see Sid the Garbage Man, and he's in a skull shirt, and I was like, "Is that Sid?"
And it
now
is.
We confirm it is. And there's a whole mix up where Andy takes the toys that we know and love, puts them in a trash bag, puts them by the attic, and through like coincidence, they get moved, and Andy's mom takes them and puts them in the curb because she doesn't know.
Oh, but before that, oh wait.
And then he does put Woody in his college bag, but no one else.
And it's kind of cool too. I think they did a really good job with Jessie because in Toy Story 2, she had a lot of anxiety over like being put away and never being played with again, which is her anxieties are the same in this movie because why would it change? And she's freaking out. And I'd say it's nice that throughout this movie, her it has changed to like accepting that.
Yeah.
And that's okay because of who she's with now.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to gloss over that.
Yeah, no, that's good. And so then we have then the toys after a little bit they fall into the trash. Woody goes to save him and he's like, "No, Andy didn't put you there." And they're like, "You're lying, but Woody." And you're thinking to the toys, you're like, "You got to believe Woody."
They all jump into the box that's going to go to the daycare.
Yeah, and so then that's what happens. And Woody, as they're driving there, Woody's like, "Hey, we can hide under the seat, then we can all get back to our spots," because he loves Andy.
And you probably said it, but Woody was put into the college box.
I did say that earlier. Okay. But yeah, so the toys are like, "We're not going to get played with, even if you aren't lying to us, Woody, or even if that is what's going to happen. We're just going to be put in the attic and just gather dust." And so then they get to the daycare, and it's like this utopia.
Mm-hmm.
And Lotso Hug-a-Bear comes out, and he's got this nice southern drawl, which you can tell now, not to bring up Kevin Spacey, but Kevin Spacey totally, his character Frank Underwood from House of Cards is 100% based off of Ned Beatty. Like, no doubt in my mind after watching this movie.
Is that guy actually Southern?
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
So
I know I've seen him in a lot. I just don't remember.
So he totally did. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. This has nothing to do with that. I just made that connection, and I'm like, oh, this is like, it sounds like Kevin Spacey's character from that, which gives it a weird. You have to forget that, at least for me, because
it makes sense. He's the bad guy, huh?
Yeah, I like that they don't hold that for too long. They don't try to pretend like he's a good guy for too long, because it is a Toy Story movie.
Well, you find out right away that it's all wrong.
Yeah.
When they get sent to the other daycare room.
Yeah, and it's like we've already had the pretty long one with the prospector where you find out at the end, and it's kind of like, let's not do that exact thing again. So and kind of, I think in 4, the one doll, she's just immediately like bad, pretty much.
I mean, there
after
might be
like
a
one
couple
scene.
Yeah. And then this scene is when Ken and Barbie meet, and Ken has a dream house.
Yeah,
and it's just instant love.
You do the Dreamweaver needle drop, which just kills me every time.
Yeah.
We just had a needle drop of our own.
Okay.
And we see Bonnie. We meet Bonnie.
Mm-hmm.
And then this part kind of blew my mind. As Lotso is showing all the toys where they can go, he shows them a repair shop where they can get stuff fixed. And there's an elephant in there who's getting stuffed.
Yeah.
with more stuffing, and he sneezes and all the stuffing goes everywhere. And when I'm watching that, and especially at the time, like people were not animating things to that level of detail.
Oh, this movie, and I know that if we watched it side by side with 4, there would be a noticeable difference. I don't notice a difference it looks so amazing, this movie.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. 4 is noticeable though.
I know because each one of them get more noticeable, but it's just like I don't know. It looks really freaking good.
Well, one of the best things they did about the series, and I don't know how they did this, but each one, the animation is like miles above the previous one. I mean, every single movie, yet somehow the characters are so cohesive. They just made them like so iconic and would only add detail rather than redesign, except for the exception being Bo Peep, who they redesigned. But she had like time and they were able to kind of like do what they wanted with that. I don't know how they pulled that off.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's really weird because I would think that it would be like Mad Max. When you go to like the new one, it looks absolutely different from the other.
That's
three.
a whole different thing, though.
It totally is.
Because it is. I know it's still George Miller, but it did kind of feel like a reboot.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Well, maybe a better example would be Star Wars.
There you go.
Like there is a cohesive like language in the camera movements, but when you look at each trilogy, it's vastly different.
Yeah.
Wow, that was so smart, Micah, is what Jordan just
said.
And
this is the day the podcast will end.
It'll never end. We'll do it until we die.
Okay.
So this is when the series also starts dealing with the independence of toys.
I don't want to watch that movie.
What movie?
I'm deciding right now.
Oh, Hustlers?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, we can talk about it off mic.
We can talk about it right now.
Well, you don't have to watch it. And I also don't have to watch it if you'd rather I didn't watch it. Okay, we're looking at... She's
really
looking at it
not into that picture.
Yeah, the stills don't look great. It does look very sexual, but the story looks so interesting.
That's the movie where the trailer came out, and I'm like, okay, give me the book. I'll read the book.
Right, I remember you saying that. Yeah. And
Sorry to bring it up right now.
No, that's fine. And I don't have to watch it if that's fine if I don't have to.
Marriage.
Yeah, marriage. It's about compromise. So this is when the series kind of starts dealing with independence of toys and like toys.
Like a society.
Well, because as we know, we're going to find out like Bo Peep just lives on her own and she's like her own toy.
Yeah.
And in this, they're kind of like, we can be our own toys. Kids will still play with us. And then at the end of the day, we're not like owned by anyone. Kind of an interesting idea. And what I really like about the series as a whole, again, and we talked about it when we were watching it, is that Woody never loses his selfishness in the series. And he's still... Because I would think, if I was writing these, I think I would fall into the trap of like, okay, we've spent 2 movies with Woody. Now he's an infallible character. Him and Buzz are like perfect. We'll make everyone else like the jerks.
No more character development.
But it's like from the perspective of the other toys, he's saying, okay, let's break out of this really quick and I'll save you.
Yeah, you know what's crazy is Woody makes the decision by the end of the movie, not Andy. When Woody puts himself into that box, not Andy, when he gives everything to Bonnie. Because it's like, Andy was still going to take Woody to college.
Yeah.
But throughout the movie, that was his character. It's like, yeah, he's loyal to Annie, and that's like probably one of his best qualities is his loyalty to the kid that owns him. But like, this was a moment, this was like a part in this movie where it's like, you need to know when is enough. Like, it is over and you need to accept it. And that's what he's unwilling to accept the whole movie.
Yeah.
Is that they're not going to be Andys anymore. Because it's like, what everyone else is saying is right. It's just like, we're going to sit in an attic. Who cares?
Right.
So it's just an interest. They did character development with him.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about Buzz, but with Woody, definitely.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my
head. But
this
is the 3rd movie in a row that they've like changed his identity for a laugh, which I'm fine with.
But here's what's kind of cool about it is like it's been a consistent theme, and in every movie he has something like that. But it does help with his character, I think, Because in the first one, he's grappling with.
Well, it affects the plot. It's not just for laughs.
Yeah, but I mean, if we're gonna go down there, in the first one, it affects like his existence. He doesn't know how he exists. You know?
Yeah.
In the second one, he finds out that he's not unique.
Yeah.
And then in the third one, he becomes Spanish Buzz. And
Well, he like other toys reprogrammed him.
yeah.
So for I'd say like half of the movie, he's not Buzz, which I think it's just for the plot.
Yeah, I
They
guess
did
this
that.
one's a little more plotty. But then
But it's fine. I mean, that's what they needed his character to do, and I don't
Yeah.
think there's a problem with it.
no. And then in the fourth one, he has like the conscience.
If anything, I think it's cool that they did that because it gave Jessie room to grow. Because she's a great character,
Yeah.
and she's a really strong character. And I wonder if at any point it was hard to write both of like all three of them
Yeah.
in a script because
Yeah.
they're also and it's a kids movie, only like have like an hour and a half, so it makes sense to me.
Yeah. And so then Woody escapes, but his hat stays there, which will come back later. So then all the toys hide in the preschool room. Or no, so they're all put in the preschool caterpillar room.
Yeah.
And Lotso's like, you're going to love it. And they're so excited. And the bell's about to ring, and they're just lying in the middle of the floor. And all the other toys that have been at Sunnyside are underneath, like hiding. And they're shaking.
I think it's Jessie that discovers him too, and maybe some others, and she's just kind of like, oh, something's wrong. I remember Rex is just running up to the door, and he's like, I'm ready. And she's
Yeah.
like, no. Because it's a bunch of just like 2-year-olds.
Yeah, and they like paint them, stick them in their nose. They do
So funny.
all
What a
this crazy
funny
stuff.
sequence. And then Buzz like gets thrown up onto a shelf, and he sees into the other playroom where the other toys are. And it's like maybe 4 to 5-year-olds.
Yeah,
And they're like very gentle and soft with all of the toys and loving.
yeah, and then as we'll progress on, as we once they go, so Buzz decides that they all decide like we are not age appropriate for these kids. We need to be in the other room. So Buzz tries to request a transfer. He finds out about this secret meeting that's in this concession. What are those called? Those
Oh, vending machine.
vending machine. And the lighting in that room is crazy.
Yeah, super cool.
Throughout, they're just great at the thing that we say is like our number one pet peeve about Marvel, where it's like a lot of the scenes just look the same.
Yeah.
In Toy Story, it's always different.
Yeah.
Love that.
If you're writing a story or a script, think about changing the location.
Or just the color palette.
Yeah.
All of that stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it makes such a difference. And so he finds out about like a background meeting, and basically he finds out that it's this, which is so crazy to put. I'm kind of befuddled by this whole thing, where they put like this whole narrative about class structures into this movie. And we were trying to figure out like what government system it might be imitating, but we kind of just landed on it just being about class. And it's this, like the rich, not the rich, but the upper class, like ruling the lower class, the working man, and the working man having to like do all of his stuff so that society will function and kind of bite the bullet so society will function, even if maybe they were meant for other things. And you're kind of like, in a toy store, like in a kid's movie, we're dealing with this, and it's actually pretty concise, and it does get the point across.
Pretty simple.
To me, it reminds me of like communism, just because of that idea of like, oh, we can share everything, everything's going to be great, and then it winds up just being the working class, and then when they try and do something different, they're thrown into prison because it's easier to do that than not, and then to deal with it and try and fix the system. Very interesting. Meanwhile, good old Woody is at Bonnie's house because she picked him up. There's a Totoro.
Yeah. There's a Totoro. What's more to say? He looks soft and I want to hug him.
I was hoping he was going to say something in Japanese, but as Jordan...
Totoro doesn't talk.
Yeah, she pointed that out, so that's
Totoro.
good. Totoro. If you haven't seen Totoro, My Neighbor Totoro, wow. Wow, that's a good movie. That is a good movie. So I like that.
So pretty much Woody's like, I got to get back and save them. And they're like, why would you go back there, Bonnie's toys? Why would you do that?
Yes, and this is when Chuckles.
Yeah, so it's like, he's like, well, why wouldn't I? What's so wrong about it? Because Woody hasn't seen any of the stuff because he left. And Chuckles the Clown cool character design.
Very cool character design.
Has a history with Lotso. And he's got a really cool, like, looking off into the distance of the night sky as he tells his story.
Yeah.
And saying that him and Lotso were owned by the same girl, Daisy, as well as the creepy baby, but was not creepy at the time that Daisy owned it. So they were all owned by this girl, and Lotso was her very favorite toy, and everything was happy. She took them everywhere. What?
Oh my gosh. The guy who plays Lotso? Do you know who he is?
You mean...
I mean, Chuckles?
No, I guess I forgot to look that up.
Oh, wait. I guess he only did it in one. Oh, so he has played Eeyore before. Not in in the original, but in some of them.
So Brad Garrett.
No,
I'm just kidding.
Bud Lucky is his name. And he's also
Bud Lucky? You got a cool name.
He's also the agent in The Incredibles that is replaced later by Jonathan Banks.
Oh.
So in the first movie...
Did he die?
Yeah, he died. And he
was cool.
He's in Sesame Street. He's Donnie Bud. He's the Alligator King, Candyman.
Wow, what a cool career.
Yeah, not a lot of stuff, but I mean, hopefully enough to get by.
If he's on Sesame Street, probably took up a lot of his time.
Yeah, Bud Lucky.
So Bud Lucky, a.k.a. Chuckles, the clown. So Lotso was Daisy's favorite. And then she would take him everywhere. And one day she took him outside doing a family picnic, it looks like, and she left him there. And they
not on purpose.
By accident. Left Lotso, Chuckles the clown, and the baby. And they had to walk all the way home, which took a long time.
Yeah.
They're toys, people. Took them a long time.
Yeah.
So then they make it.
The colors in this sequence are so cool.
The field reminds me a lot of Jesse's thing, and I feel like that's on purpose. It just has a familiar feeling, like this weird nostalgia or something. So then when they make it home, it's dark. I mean, it's been like, you're assuming days, maybe a week or something. And you can just imagine this girl, Daisy, it's a little girl. She's probably bawling her eyes out the whole time. This could have only been 2 days. And her parents are like, we got to get her to calm down. Just buy her another bear. So when they get back, Lotso's all excited, gets up to the window to get back inside and see that she is another Lotso bear. And this is one of, I love when they show like bad guy backstories.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not always necessary. We're not supposed to have sympathy. This one you have a lot. I feel like I got sympathy for this guy. But so you see that he sees her and then he's just like, this is it, we're leaving. And Chuckles and the baby, they're like, well, we can still go in there. And he's like, no, she's forgotten about us. But she's only forgotten about Lotso.
Yeah.
Because she already has another one. And it's like great animation, because if this was live action and the acting was done as well as the animation in terms of facial expression, it is like nailed perfectly.
It's crazy.
How it goes from like happiness, surprise, shock to anger. Like within a span of 2 seconds. And they just walk away and they find themselves at the preschool. By this time, it's like pouring rain.
And they, as I have been harping on, which maybe I shouldn't be so much, but they are influenced by horror once again, that they've already kind of referenced with the children.
Yeah.
But now there's like lightning, and like Sunnyside looks like an asylum.
Yeah.
It looks very scary.
Yeah. Which you
Once
should
again,
think about
horror.
it that way.
There's
Because
horror in all
they
four.
didn't come there on good circumstances, under
Yeah.
good circumstances. So because of what Lotso has gone through, he totally changes the way Sunnyside is run. And that's why the daycare is run the way it is now. And Chuckles got away because Bonnie took him home.
Yeah. And then this is when they decide they have to do the breakout.
Yeah.
So,
Which is really complicated. I think it was really funny. Mr. Potato Head becoming a tortilla.
yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah, let's just hit the highlights of the breakout.
Yeah, so that part was really funny.
The monkey horror, very scary.
Oh yeah, the monkey
Who runs
was
the security
really
camera.
scary. And then Barbie.
We actually, I think we both jumped when we were watching it, because
Yeah.
we were like, ah!
It was scary. And then Barbie has to like coerce information out of Ken, and there's a really fun like runway fashion.
To the freak out.
Yeah, of him trying on all the outfits, which I remember was
Yeah.
such a big laugh moment for me when I saw it
Hilarious.
in theaters.
And there was a scene where he like twirls and it goes slow motion and the tassels go in the
Yeah.
air. And I remember in 3D, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, so that happens. That's very funny.
Damn, Ken, you are pulling that off.
And then They need to make it to the chute, which just goes to the dumpster. That's their ticket out of there.
Yes.
Without being detected. So they make it all the way there.
And Buzz is now Spanish.
Buzz is now Spanish Buzz. And they make it there, but right as they get there, Lotso's there.
Yeah. And before we continue, I just want to point out that I think what is so smart about this movie is that they do actually spend a good amount of time on the breakout and like setting that up.
Yeah, we're covering a lot, like a good chunk of time in like 2 minutes.
And it does feel like, it almost feels kind of, to me, kind of classic, like they're influenced by maybe The Great Escape and stuff like that. And it brings a new genre to the film so that it does feel apart from the other two movies.
And I like for in this situation, because it is a kids movie and they're not that long, that they don't explain what they're gonna do. They just show you what they're gonna do when they're doing it.
Yeah,
it makes it more entertaining and like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, and it's also kind of like the Steven Soderbergh, like Ocean's 11 feel, where it's just like, oh.
Yeah, totally. So Lotso and his gang get there right as they get to the dumpster. But then you have this moment where Woody has the little Daisy, like her name tag that was on Lotso that broke off.
Yeah.
Because it was Chuckles had her. One of the. Oh no, Chuckles did have it. And Lotso's
too bad
like,
Chuckles wasn't in 4. I love Chuckles.
So good. But then Lotso's like, where did you find that? Woody throws it at him, and it's just such good acting and animation acting with Lotso, because it affected him so deeply that he responds with anger again.
In denial.
Anger and denial, like without question.
Yeah.
And just like smashes it. And the baby, who was also Daisy's baby.
Who's that's what it's from, is the baby, I think.
Oh, you're right. That is what it's from. The baby pushes Lotso into the dumpster, and you're like, yay, they're going to get away, because now Lotso's gang is not for him anymore. And then right as they're escaping, Woody gets in the dumpster. He latches onto Woody. It's Woody, right?
Yeah, Lotso grabs Woody's because the one of the aliens gets stuck in the dumpster.
So therefore, what do you think's going to happen? All of them go in the dumpster, which means all of them get taken to the dump. And I wonder how hard this was to animate, this whole sequence, or if it was easy.
I can speak to that a little bit. I didn't dig too deep, but basically with Pixar throughout the years, at least, especially those first 20 years, they basically, when they wrote a story, for the purpose of the story, they've always claimed that it's not just to break new barriers every time. They would always be like, oh, it's Finding Nemo. We have to figure out how to animate water. Oh, it's Cars. How do we animate stuff that has shiny reflections? So for this, they had to go, how do we animate garbage that has literally thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces and it look good and not have to hand animate it all, because it's impossible and we'd never finish the movie. So they had to I think it's the software that randomizes and makes it for you, once you animate a few. I believe, I'm not totally positive about that, but they invented some new technology for that.
Especially the end when the claw takes him out and that dumps him on the ground, and you see it's the trash has all been smashed and stuff at that point, so it doesn't really look like anything anymore. And I was looking at all the different textures, because I was seeing if they did it. And there are a lot of different textures, but it is kind of unidentifiable, but also it would be because it's gone through a shredder.
Yeah. And what's sad about this sequence is, and totally removing myself from the illusion, or putting myself into the illusion of I'm watching a story, is it's just so sad that Woody saves Lotso because he has something stuck on him, and then when he goes up and he has the opportunity to stop the trash, he just says, nah, and walks away. And that's so sad.
I know. It's just okay, he's not going to change. Which, being the bad guy, it's okay, I'm not going to sympathize with you. You can't.
Yeah.
Anymore. You know what I mean? Because he's not willing to do it himself.
Yeah.
But he ends up being picked up by Sid, Garbage Boy.
Yeah.
And put onto the front of his truck.
Yeah. And we haven't even talked about the sequence where they're all...
Just get to it.
Yeah, so they're going down the trash chute. There's fire. The fire looks great, too.
Yeah.
And they're going, how are we going to get out of this? And they're trying to claw and get their way out. And then they all start grabbing hands. and the like expressions on
But
their
you know
faces
what's crazy?
is devastating.
In terms of the story, like the whole story is just about accepting their fate. So Andy wanting them to be in the attic, that, like they just need to accept that is where Andy has put them now.
That's good.
So this is when their characters change. Like this is the actual climactic moment of like they have chosen to accept their fate.
Yeah, you're
Wow.
right. And
Epiphany.
so they choose to accept it. And earlier, brilliantly, because it's not out of nowhere, the aliens were like, the claw, and ran off on their own.
Yeah.
They got the claw. They saved them. Doesn't feel like it. I know it's sort of a Deus Ex Machina, but it doesn't.
Pretty funny,
it's
though.
like an earned Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah.
And they save them. And then we cut to Andy. Well, there's stuff in between.
Yeah.
Andy gives his toys to Bonnie.
But
and
they play with them. So he
play with
plays
them.
with them one more time.
And it's kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
The score is amazing. And Bonnie's liking the toys. She's thinking this is fun. And then
She's
he
most
reaches
excited
in.
about Woody.
Yeah, she says something about
She's like,
Woody.
my cowboy.
And then he pulls out Woody, which he hadn't put in the box. So Woody did choose to be there, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
And then he at first, it's amazing. She reaches for it and he pulls back, kind of in like surprise / like anger, and then he gives it to her.
It's just like another good animating acting
know.
is this expression comes over his face where he's like, this is time.
Yeah.
Because it probably went through his head. He's just going to sit on a shelf wherever I take him now. But this little girl's going to play with him.
Yeah. So he gives it to her, and then that's the end of the movie. And then over the credits, Ken writes a letter to Barbie about how Sunnyside is better now.
Yeah.
But the ending is just so powerful, and it feels so complete that I think everyone everywhere, when they were like, okay, we officially announced Toy Story 4, we all had a collective sigh of like, ooh, money grab.
I know, because this really was
This is the end. This is the end.
Also, we like things in threes. So
We do like threes. But it just did feel like, okay, what do they really have something else? And I remember like reading interviews where like Tom Hanks is like, but Toy Story 4, I was crying at the end and stuff. And I'm like, well, we were all crying at the other one. Like, come on.
You have to say that, Tom.
And then in June of last year, they came out with 4. And we're going to cover that next week. So as far as it goes now, this is a perfect series. I know I already said that it continues to be perfect, but you're going to find out next week if we think it's perfect. Thanks for listening, everybody. Mm-hmm. Do you have anything else to say?
Nope.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. We have moved the release date to the album. It's going to be March 13th. And we're still...
It's going to be March 13th?
Yes. Should it not be?
Oh.
Friday the 13th?
Well, like the next day we're celebrating my mom's birthday, like a big party. I guess that's fine. It's
should
a Friday, right?
Yeah. Should I move the date?
No, it's probably fine.
Okay.
Let me talk to...
Okay,
my
listeners,
dad.
we'll wait till next week. Forget I said
Tentative
anything.
March 13th. And
I'm gonna cut
marriage
all this
lesson, communication.
I'm gonna cut all that out probably.
Okay.
Maybe I won't though. Maybe it's funny. If you go to patreon.com/Micah McCaw, you can sign up to get your podcast on Monday instead of Friday, so you get it early, and you also get like extra things.
Whoop.
So check that out. Even if you're unsure, check it out. It's a monthly thing, as small as $5
Why
a month.
not?
We got 5 now. I want to get to 10 because once we get to 10, you guys choose what series we cover next. So whatever series we're on, we're just going to...
I don't want to decide.
I don't want to decide either. But whatever series we're on, we're just going to stop. Well, we'll finish that series, and then we're just going to do yours no matter what. So get on there.
And I'm going to say it right now so that no one can find a loophole in the system. If you get to 10 patrons, they can't choose any of those franchises that we talked about that we'll never do, like Saw.
Yeah, there are
Halloween.
There are a couple that we will veto. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. Because if you're like, do the entire Godzilla series, I don't want to spend the next 3 years talking about every Japanese Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
That we
have
do
it on.
have to
We're saying it
approve
on record.
We have to approve it. But there's plenty of stuff. There's some weird stuff out there. There are some huge franchises that we think are horrible, and I think you'd like to hear us rag on. There's some great franchises that I think you'd like to hear us freak out about. So do it. Pull the trigger.
Thanks.
We love you guys, though. Even if you don't do it, it's okay.
Yeah.
We love you anyway.
See you next time.